Gen X grew up on late-night warnings.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Scared, straight.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
And were inspired by movies that defined a generation.
We were all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it, that's all.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I feel the need for speed.
We found our attitude in comedy.
I'm Gumby, damn it!
You see that sign?
No shirt, no shoes,
No dice!
Right. Learn it. Know it. Live it.
And our identity in pop culture.
I want my MTV!
I want my MTV.
I want my MTV!
What you talking about, Willis?
Keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
This is Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhide.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
All right, welcome in, everyone. Episode 20 of Gen X Men. Bill Rowland here, Gary Dollarhide right there. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us for yet another episode. Legal next week, Gary.
Yes.
When we do the episode 21, we'll be
popping
legal.
the champagne and taking shots, and who knows what else we'll do.
I'm in. Let's do it. I'm all for it. All right, got a lot to get to today. There's so much news going on locally with us here in DC, with me. You grew up sort of in this area, kind of DC adjacent Richmond. So we'll get to all of that coming up with what's going on with the Washington Post and other things. Everybody around here is all aflutter about the Epstein files. We may get into that a little bit. But, of course, we got to start with the Super Bowl. Patriots, correct. Seahawks, big game. Are we allowed to call it the Super Bowl?
Well, I was about to ask you, are we under those restrictions to call it the big game?
No, I don't think we have to call it the big game because we're not doing any advertising. We're not tying the Super Bowl in any monetary thing of value.
We're speaking factually.
Yes, exactly. It's what it's called, so that's what we're going to call it. I remember doing sports radio. There's always that fine line of when you could call it the Super Bowl and when you couldn't. So I was always just like, that game they're going to play Sunday.
Yes,
to make fun of it. So
and I always got confused too because if I'm the NFL. Yes, I own the Super. I want people to talk about the Super Bowl. I'd go after people who want to use it for other things, but call it what it is, right? I mean, that's always the disjointed thing of, they have to call it. Well, no, I want them to call it what it is because that's the imaging, the marketing that goes with it.
It's the same thing. I mean, a lot of them have it. But it's the same thing for college basketball. With March Madness, you have to call it the tournament. When you're doing other things, you can't call it March Madness because it's copyrighted or trademarked or whatever the legalese is. So, but anyway, Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. How are you going to be watching this week? Because really that's what it comes down to is I think very few people are just going to be, sitting alone in their house with a bag of popcorn and, not doing anything else. Maybe that's what you guys are doing in Maine. It's going to be wicked cold here in Virginia, as you guys would say up there this weekend. So I'm looking forward to staying inside and not doing too much of, party hopping Sunday night.
Well, it will be cold here in Maine, but, that affects people here less than it does down there.
Correct.
And it's also the triumphant return. Like it has been Super Bowl mania.
Oh, that's right.
The Patriots.
Yes.
We're back. And so the excitement level very high for what I'll call the locals and other people. I know there's a bunch of parties going on. I'll be at work, so hopefully everyone behaves themselves and we can all sit and watch the game starting Sunday night. But it'll just be me and my partner and a big thing of popcorn more than likely. But yeah,
I would think, and you tell me, because again, it's for those of you who may be tuning in for one of the first times and you haven't heard. Gary works as an EMT up in, what would you call it? South Maine,
Southern Maine,
New
Hampshire border.
So when you have these big events, like I know from talking to my brother-in-law is a retired fireman, and I know some other people that work kind of in that industry adjacent, if you will. And they always say like 4th of July sucks because people are drunk and stupid and they do dumb things and you end up, putting out fires or whatever. I'm just curious if, like, they say Halloween is another big night where people just do dumb stuff. New Year's Eve, of course. Anytime there's heavy drinking. Well, I think there's heavy drinking at the Super Bowl, but is it one of those things that because everybody is just in front of their TV, that it's a quieter night? Is that how things work when there's a big TV type gathering that you kind of go, huh, everybody must be inside watching the Super Bowl or whatever it is, and you don't get as much action?
Yeah. I mean, you can see that. What we notice, it's also time specific, sporadic. So, for instance, the Super Bowl during the game, chances are nothing will happen. It'll be right after, because that's when, as we say, oh, now you've decided to deal with whatever problem you have. Thanksgiving, another big one.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be quiet all day, and then after about 4 o'clock, all of a sudden the calls come in for, oh, I need to go to the ER to see this. And well, where were you earlier? Well, we had family, right? They put things off. Christmas, the same thing. Christmas is more of the day after.
Right.
They'll fight through Christmas Eve with whatever. They'll fight through Christmas Day. And then after Christmas Day, boom, now we got to go to the hospital and deal with whatever we need to have dealt with that causes it. So I think it'll be quiet. And then I think for the Super Bowl, though, it's way further down the ladder. You're going to have the random one or two that maybe had too much, tried to drive home and slid off the road because, again, we're full of snow and ice right now.
Right.
So I imagine there'll be a few things after the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that would probably be the same with, like, even Thanksgiving. People driving home after they went maybe to Thanksgiving dinner, maybe had one too many, and all of a sudden you're in a ditch.
Yep.
Well,
but I'll go back. Christmas, New Year's, all that. Well, not New Year's. Christmas, Thanksgiving, less about alcohol and more of we're just not going to deal with our medical problem until after we're done eating, we're done with people, right? That's when we're going to deal with it because we don't want to ruin the event. So you get into 4th of July, your holiday, Memorial Day, Labor Day, then you'll see a little bit more alcohol-induced issues.
Yeah.
From, again, people had too many, trying to drive home, and things go awry.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking of is more of the alcohol-induced, like, hey, we decided that we would bet to see who could hold the most amount of firecrackers in their hand before you gave up and somebody loses a pinky or whatever it is. Like, I held 5, whatever those little tiny firecrackers are. I don't remember what they're called. Snap, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Light 5 of them, hold them in your hand. Oh, look. No problems. And then somebody does 10 and they blow a pinky off. Yeah. Then you got to call.
I have not had a fireworks injury in a couple of years.
Wow.
I will tell you, not so much the alcohol anymore for us here in Maine because it's legal. Weed. So, and people come from out of state. They buy the edibles thinking, oh, I'm just going to chew this gummy. They pay no attention to the label, which tells you how much is actually in each gummy.
Right.
And they'll just, hey, here's a handful. And next thing you know, they're just a bubbling mess. Or, I mean, it is true. It affects people different ways.
Right.
So I will have people say, well, I've had it before, but I don't know what's going on. It's like, well, have you had this brand or this? Well, no, you don't know how it's going to affect you because there's different strains and there's whole science to it. So people get blindsided by that one a lot.
It's all those Chinese pot farms up there in Central Maine.
There's a lot of them.
People are going to say, people are going to laugh at me. Like, what are you talking about? No, there are a lot of Chinese pot farms in Central Maine. I know this because there's a couple right down the road from my aunt and uncle there in Corinna. So, yeah, they're everywhere up there. But anyway,
yes, they are.
Let's go to the game itself. I know you're up there in the middle of Patriot, City. Obviously, my cousin Travis, who's from up that way, he's very excited. His Patriots are back as well. So I guess I'm kind of rooting for them because, I mean, I'm not one of these people that's going to be affected either way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, my life doesn't revolve around my sports teams, even though you can see behind me all my Red Sox stuff. I'm still not one of these people. I learned years ago after being heartbroken over and over again before 2004 that it's just not worth having them ruin your week, your day. I still have friends day in and day out, the NFL season. If the now Commanders, and they haven't been good, say for last year when they went back to the NFC title game, but then they had a terrible year this year, like it will still ruin their week until about Wednesday. Like they're just in a bad mood. Yeah. And I'm like, you can't let that. You can't be that invested to have it ruined. Like you're being unpleasant to your family because your stupid football team didn't play. Like you have to stop. And I'm to that point years ago where I was like, I don't care anymore. It just doesn't mean anything. So I guess I'm rooting for the Patriots. But are you doing that because you're their Patriots adjacent? Or are you kind of like me? Like, I just hope it's an entertaining game.
I hope it's an entertaining game. I mean, being a newcomer to New England, I've never had an affinity for the Patriots. I sometimes, honestly, and you could speak to this, the affinity for the Patriots and the Red Sox is a little bit overwhelming.
Oh,
and it's
sure.
probably just because I have never been that invested, except for one team, to have that kind of emotional construct where my day, my week is what's happening with the team.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting thing here in New England because if you think about it, winners are bad. So the Patriots being good got you through the early part of the winter. Then you're bridged with the Bruins, who, on and off are pretty good, and hockey's big up here.
Right.
To get you into spring, summer for the Red Sox.
Right. Well, and the Celtics. The Celtics even more
too.
so than the Bruins have been huge up there as well because they've won all, again, back in the 80s with Bird, McHale, all of them, they were winning title after title after title for a long time. And then they just had a couple here recently. So, yeah, the other thing is outside of the Celtics, the Bruins were okay. They won a Stanley Cup, back in the 70s. They won another one more recently here. But like when Bobby Orr was playing, this is way before I was paying attention to hockey, but I've heard all the stories. There was nothing. And they weren't winning anything. And so people that are Gen X will understand this because if they were aware of it, understand, the curse and everything else that was going on with the Red Sox. They weren't winning. And after Bird retired, the Celtics went on a drought for a number of years. There wasn't winning in Boston.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden, Brady shows up and Belichick, and now they can't lose. And then the Sox win in 2004. And then they win again in 2007, I think it was. And then they win again in 2013. Like, all of a sudden, the Red Sox have 4 titles this century. And, Boston, for a long time, people felt bad. Because it was just like whether it was the Red Sox or they just can't. Now everyone hates Boston fans because I think they have since Brady won the first Super Bowl. Yeah, since Brady won the first Super Bowl against the Rams, what was that, 99 or whatever it was?
Yes.
They haven't gone, whether it's hockey, basketball, football, or baseball, they haven't gone more than 5 years without a title.
Correct.
It's unfair to every other city who's got all the major sports because nobody, New York, LA, I don't care. You haven't had that. Yeah. And so everybody up there, they has to just be, if you're not a Boston fan, it just has to drive you nuts to live in that area. I almost feel bad living up there because it's got to be obnoxious.
It can't, I don't find it. It can be because look, there's some dieharders out there. It's Boston or die. And you think about, like you said, we're 1999, we're going to 26 years of sustained success of some team that you follow between the Labor Day and then through the winter to Memorial Day, because baseball stands by itself later in the year, but you've got all of that going on for those months in the dreariness of the winter. You've got the Patriots, you got the Bruins, you got the Celtics, and then it kicks off right into baseball come April. These fans just love it, embrace it. You watch the jackets switch, the hats switch. They'll turn one thing on, have a second. One of my partners, we have a way with second TVs, and he'll have the hockey game on, the NBA. It just, they just obsessed.
I just looked it up.
More funny to me.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Since 1999, in the 4 major sports, they have 13 championships
every other year.
99. Yeah, 6 Super Bowls, 4 World Series titles, 2 NBA titles, and a Stanley Cup. 1 Stanley Cup. But again, it's just obscene the amount of,
Mhm.
I mean, year after year after year. I mean, the last one was 2024 with the Celtics. That ended I guess that was the longest drought. They went from
Yes.
2018 to 2024. So there was 1 6-year period. Oh my gosh, they must have been losing their minds when the Patriots and the Red Sox each won in 2018, and then you didn't have a title again until 2024. My word, how did you survive? I mean, that's just crazy.
Well, and that's why I said, earlier we talked about the Super Bowl. It said we're back. The excitement level's pretty high up here because, this is the first time without Brady or Belichick. We're back, and it feels like the old days with a good, fairly good offense, fairly good defense. It's well balanced, and it's everything that those teams were before. And they're excited. There's, special bar party. I mean, more so than you would expect normally.
And this doesn't even count the Super Bowls that they lost, that they were still in, or the NBA titles that the Celtic title games that the Celtics were in. I think they lost at least one to the Lakers at one point in this century. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't even include those where, like, okay, you didn't win, but your team was there.
Had a good year.
Yeah,
had a good year.
It's unbelievable. I'm going to look that up right now. Let's see how many titles did they play for.
But even with the Bruins being hit or miss, for those not up here in the Northeast, hockey's huge.
Oh, it's big. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about youth hockey. I hear what parents are spending for their kids that are 6 and 7 to play hockey. Hockey's just hockey, good or bad, hockey. And so even the Bruins off years, it's still about the Bruins. So.
Yeah. Okay. So here you go. Since 1999, 20 appearances in title games with 13 titles. That's nearly one a year that you're going to. The Bruins won the Cup in 11, lost it in 13 and 19. So even in that stretch, 2018 to 2024, when they didn't win a title, they were there in 2022 with the Celtics and 2019 with the Bruins. So they have not gone 5 years this century without at least playing for a championship.
Yeah.
Nobody else can say that. I don't think. I can't think of anybody else that even is in close to that.
No, because when we started talking about it, I remember there was, and I didn't go pull the article, but there was an article probably in the past couple of years, especially I guess maybe during the drought, that someone was pointing out like, hey, it does feel kind of bad, but look back, a quarter century, what we've had here in Boston at the professional sports level.
Yeah, it is crazy because, again, I being born in 71, it'll be 55 this year. I was kind of, born into it, as they say, as being a Red Sox fan because my mom's from up in Maine. So we'd spend summers up there. DC didn't have a baseball team at the time. So, I mean, I can remember 78 losing the that playoff game, the 1-game playoff to the Yankees and being missed as a 7-year-old kid after following them all summer and thinking this is going to be it. I can remember 86 losing game 6 to the Mets when Buckner had the error. I can tell you exactly what I did that night because it was my homecoming of my sophomore year. And I kept going outside. The dance was at the cafeteria, which is where they did it in high schools back then. I would go out of the cafeteria out to the hallway where I think it was my history teacher or my math teacher, one of my teachers, male teachers, had the game on like a little radio, was listening to it. And I kept going out inning after inning, like, what's the score? Getting the update. My dad, because I wasn't old enough to drive yet, my dad drove my date, who was my girlfriend at the time, drove her home. I literally just walked her immediately up to the door. I was like, this was really great. I'll see you tomorrow. We went to the same church. It was Saturday night. I said, I'll see you tomorrow. Gave her a quick kiss, ran back to the car, turned up the radio, got home in time to watch the bottom of the 10th. I'm literally sitting there. I've got my tie off. I'm like, I cannot believe this is going to be the greatest night of my life. and 20 minutes later, I'm going to bed. And I was like, I cannot. And I was like, it's all right. We'll have game 7. And they had a lead in game 7 and then lost. And I was like, I can't believe this. And then 88 and 90, they got swept by the 8. I mean, it was just time after time after time. And then finally, I think about it, when 2004 hit, I mean, just the celebration and the relief. I was actually sharing a townhouse with my cousin at the time. So that was a huge thing. The three of the four of us that lived in the house were Red Sox fans. So we immediately went out to the bars after they, beat St. Louis in 04 to win the title. Nobody cared. We went up to TT Reynolds, right? You remember TT Reynolds there?
Yeah.
We're at the street, and we're all like, this is amazing. And the people there are like,
what?
Why are you guys so excited? We're like, the Red Sox won. They haven't won. And they're like, all right, good for you guys. Like, whatever. But I think about it, a kid that was born, let's just say 1999, Brady's first title. Okay. That kid is turning 27 this year. Has no idea the pain and suffering and everything that everyone went through. It's just like here in DC, if that kid were born in 1999, they have no idea. It's the complete opposite. They have no idea what it was like to win 3 Super Bowl titles in 9 or 10 years or whatever it was for the then Redskins back in the 80s. They have no clue. For their entire life, the franchise has been a joke. I'm sure they listen to their parents talk about, man, you have no idea what it was like back in the 80s when we were just winning and winning. And they're like, this team, this organization, they stink. I imagine it's that way in a lot of different places. People just don't understand how hard it is to win a title. They just don't get it.
Yeah. If you go back in the Patriots history, I mean, they lost in 96 with Drew Bledsoe. I think that was the last time. And then before that, was it 84 when they played the Bears?
85, January 86. Yeah.
When they got
Bears destroyed
skunked by the Bears.
Right.
So sporadic. And so to have those lean years and then you go through the Brady Belichick dynasty, it's like you said, a kid born in 99, even mid 90s, that's all they've ever known as a sports fan.
Right.
And even people our age, 50s, they're kind of tilted too because half their life has been great, right? If you're a sports fan. So, you kind of forget those early lean years and then boom, after 99, everything's golden. So, I think you have to go with the older people who can go back and go, well, let me tell you about it. When we had nothing.
When Steve Grogan years as the quarterback there. Although they did have, even back in the day, I remember they had the best helmets with the little Patriot guy snapping the ball on the side of the helmet. That was always one of my favorite helmets. It was very cool.
Funny story, it came out up here the other day. They talked about for the time period, that Patriot was too hard to reproduce for printing. It looked great as a sticker on a helmet, but it was hard to reproduce that time, mass media and everything. So I think it was in the late 80s, they had come out with a new logo, which looked like a Roblox, blocks, but it's the current logo. It's just what they had at the time, very pixelated, that had a Patriot head with red, white, and blue coming out behind it. And the fans voted it down, said, no, that's too ugly. And then sure enough, whatever it was, so many years later, well, it's the same logo that you guys voted down. We just kind of modernized it and made it look a little better. So I thought that was funny because you're right. The Patriot snapping the football, up close, it was great. But if you saw it on a jacket or other things, it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
I can't tell what's, it was only readily recognizable if you were standing near it and knew it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So do you have a prediction?
No, because I can't tell you anything about Seattle.
Okay.
Other than Sam Darnold, the reason
project,
Well, I look at him and go, he was in New York and they ran him out and he was awful and resurged in Carolina and here he is now. And it's just about time and opportunity. No one's inherently bad sometimes. It's just where they are and what's going on at that moment. So here he is quarterbacking a Super Bowl team, and you wouldn't have thought that, 5-6 years ago when he came into the league, they just kind of wrote him off. So good for him. But other than that, I know nothing about Seattle. Obviously, we're inundated here. So if you got a balanced offense and defense like the Patriots, I assume you're in a good space to try to win the thing. So
yeah, I mean, Seattle, it's just like when they were good before. I mean, really good defense. So yeah, I mean, they got a few injuries. I mean, that's the big thing up there in New England too. They're worried about Drake May's shoulder, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but I'm sure, being the kid he is, he's going to gut it out unless he just can't do it. So,
yeah, I just want it to be exciting,
a good game,
close, and I'm going to miss all the controversy of the halftime show that everybody's angry about.
Yeah,
because we'll go to our buddy's Super Bowl party, and then I'll leave at halftime because Carrie has to be up early, assuming they're going to go to school on time. That's the other thing. All week, 2 hours delays every day.
For what?
It's the kids can't stand. I don't understand it. They're talking about the kids aren't able to stand. They're very angry down here that nobody. Okay, they plowed the streets. We got a lot of snow. I mean, we got 6 to 8 inches of snow, and then it froze. They're calling it snowcrete because it's just hard. Like,
yes.
They had pictures. Enterprising kids. I tell you what, it probably would have done the same thing when I was a little kid. These kids built massive structures out of what they're calling the snowcrete, which is you could basically pick up the block of snow ice is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just powdered snow surrounded by the layer of sleet that then froze into these blocks. They built, I'm saying, I saw a picture. You see the kids standing inside of it. I don't know how they got it up so high. It was literally 8 to 10 feet high that they had built.
Yeah.
This big giant fort wall. I don't know how they got it up that high, but they did. I mean, there were pictures all over the place I saw on like X and everything. But anyway, the school districts around here were complaining because the bus stops where the kids are supposed to stand, they plowed the snow into piles. And so, they're like, well, it's dangerous. We need the parents to go. Not shove. We have a bus stop right here at the corner. We live on a corner lot. The bus stop is at our corner. Guess who's not shoveling the corner?
Right.
This guy. Not happening. We don't live in a busy street. Stand just off to the side.
They'll
You're
be
not
okay.
gonna get hit. You're going to be fine. But no, 2 hour delay every day, which I don't understand because it's not like, okay, if we wait until 9 o'clock, it'll be 35 degrees and, there won't be any ice. It's still under freezing. So what's the 2 hours doing for you? Nothing.
I always question that myself. What does the 2 hours do? Because it happens up here in Maine. Why the 2 hours? And once, working in public safety, had a discussion and found out it's not always temperature, it's traffic. So if you wait the 2 hours, you're kind of eliminating the extra cars that the buses have to deal with in these situations because of work commute times. So that's a lot of times why they will do that.
I guess. But
get people off the road. Now we can bring the buses through a little bit safer for the kids. I'm just telling you, that's probably part of it.
They should go 2 hours late every day then, because that traffic is going to be the same next week.
Yep.
What changes?
Yep.
What changes? What changes?
The driving conditions.
What changes in April? Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Then when it rains and it's dangerous, they shouldn't be having to go out to the bus stop in the rain because it's slick and somebody should
save the money, remote learn. That's what I say.
Well, they tried that during COVID, and that didn't work out very well.
So you were talking about building structure. Let me jump on. I wish I bought the article. Did you see the guys I don't know where it happened, at the Walmart?
No.
So wherever there was a place that had mounds of snow like we have here in Maine, some guys bored said, okay. They went in and dug out the inside of it to make like a huge igloo.
That's amazing.
And they were hanging out in there drinking, and Walmart found out and booted them and then had it crushed. Yep. But I just saw that, and they had video. They walked in, the door, and they got seats, and they had their drinks lined up, and I was like, just leave them alone. They're not hurting anybody.
I did see one dad was showing his kids the science part of it. He was like, hey, look, you can actually build a fire inside of the snow, and you could actually cook, and the snow won't melt all away. And the kid was like, no way. As soon as you light that, the whole thing's coming. And no, the dad dug out the little thing. They had a little chimney going through the top, and he built a little fire down at the bottom and boiled water at the top, put a little like metal rod with the thing to hold I guess it was just like a pot and filled it with water. He said, this will boil before that snow will melt. And sure enough, time lapse, I was like, it's pretty impressive. Yeah. And the big giant snow structure was still there. So I was like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
The Eskimos know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, anyway, also another bowl that's obviously Super Bowl this weekend. This is, and I guess let me do the math real quick, 37 years now.
Woo.
It was earlier, February 1st of 1989. Does that date have any significance for you?
Well, of course, you're talking about Tecmo Bowl.
Of course, I'm talking about
The
Tecmo Bowl.
amount of time that was spent on that game, my first years of college, just that was probably better time spent than going to classes, actually. So,
Yeah,
but what a
maybe
game it
so.
was and still is. So,
Yeah,
I know they still have competitions for it.
It was the first game that, it obviously was the precursor to what Madden became.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the first time that you had 4 plays. I think it was the first game that actually had the NFL team, like had the license,
Yes,
right? Where they
I
had the
think
teams
so,
and
yeah.
the players. And if you're not familiar with this, if you're younger, whatever, listening, and you've never there are videos on YouTube. You can go watch the original Tecmo Bowl. It was a delight. And it came out the year that you and I graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still remember playing it with my buddies in high school. But you're right. It was college when then you had more people, whether it was in the dorms or hanging out at the fraternity house or whatever it was, that it was a time suck, but it was well worth it.
Oh, yeah. And I remember we had to have agreements like no one's going to be the Bears because it was programmed to the, I think it was the 85-86 season. Obviously, the Bears we just talked about, they were the be-all, end-all in that game. So you had to agree, nope, we can't be the Bears. We got to be someone else.
Right.
But then you found out like Bo Jackson on the Raiders.
Unstoppable.
Yep. Unstoppable. And then Quiet One, you hear it sometimes, and I watched it. For the Indianapolis Colts, there's a player called John Hand.
Yep.
And he was an unstoppable defensive beast in the game. So, that was the agreement. Like, no one could be the Bears because it's too hard. They just take over and run over everybody. But you can be all the other teams. And then you had to figure out which one had the superstar. And those were, the two main ones I remember.
The other rule was, especially if you used a team like the Bears or you had the Colts with John Hand or whatever it was, is you couldn't jump the snap. Because if you remember right, you could sit there and you wouldn't jump off sides, but you could just keep, if I remember, you could just keep hitting the button there. I think it was A or B, whichever it was.
Yeah.
The defender would dive.
Yeah.
And if you had the guy that was right over the center, if you did it, you could dive and you immediately get a sack. Yeah. Like you just, before the play even got started, you would get the quarterback if they weren't in shotgun or something. So that was the other thing, is no jumping the center, any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, those were great. But then you updated it, or Tecmo updated it with Tecmo Super Bowl. Not just Tecmo Bowl, but Tecmo Super Bowl. And it kept the stats if you played a whole season. It had 8 plays instead of 4. You had 4 running plays, 4 passing plays. Because the original Tecmo, you only had 4. So you had a 25% chance of picking the play that the person on offense picked. And if you did, the play was blown up. And you usually get, that was the thing with Bo Jackson, because even if the play got blown up, he still just ran through people.
Yes.
Most of the time, if you ran a running play and the other person picked that play, you're going to get crushed. You're going to lose a yard or 2 or whatever it was. If it was a passing play, you would get sacked unless you got it off. San Francisco used to be able to get it off real quick.
Yep.
With, I think Steve Young might have been the quarterback in 89 for them. I don't remember. But Jerry Rice, if you got off quick, if you knew, like you had to watch certain things, you said, oh, they know it, you got rid of the ball, you could still complete it. Otherwise, you're just going to get swamped.
Or the other thing, which was always half annoying, was the off-screen touchdowns.
Yes.
Like you would know the play.
Right.
So you'd run the quarterback opposite direction and just try to not get sacked, and then throw the 80-yard bomb to whatever the pre-selected receiver was, and just hit them for the long touchdown. That one used to be annoying because on defense you had to figure out, like, could you
who am I guarding?
Who am I guarding was always the issue.
Yep.
So
and you could switch. There's buttons that you could switch defenders or whatever they had to run with the receiver. Yeah, that was always tough. But then when they switched to Super Tecmo Bowl, and then you had 8 plays rather than 4, They kept the stats for the entire year. We would put in, and I can remember this big snowstorm back in the 90s. I want to say it might have been, had to be before 96. There must have been another one. I know we had a big snowstorm in 96. There must have been another time when Mason was closed for a few days because the weather was bad. And I hung out with a bunch of the guys that had rented out a house. And so we just literally stayed in. There's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 of us that all threw in like $5-10 and said, okay, we're running the season. We're starting now. And you randomly got a team. We drew teams out of a hat. So if you got a bad team, you were just screwed. And then you just played their season. So if you had matchups with each other, I want to say we were all in the NFC or AFC. So we would play each other more because it sucked to have to sit there and watch somebody play the computer or whatever. But we did like a whole season in about a week of all playing each other and went into the pot. And those games got intense because, again, you're locked in the house. Some guys are drinking. You're playing games. You're getting mad. You get frustrated, whatever it is. And there were some near brawls over those games sometimes. But that was the best. So February 1st, 1989. Thank you, Tecmo, Nintendo, for bringing us until Madden the greatest football game ever.
Yeah, and like I said, I love the fact that there's still tournaments out there where they're playing the Tecmo versus the Madden stuff.
Right.
So it longevity. People know when something's good, they keep playing it.
Yeah, Tecmo was absolutely incredible. All right, other games that we can talk about here. The Winter Olympics kind of snuck up on me. I didn't realize as we record this on Thursday, February 5th. I mean, I knew it was coming in February, but I just like, I think it was yesterday, I woke up and went, oh yeah, Gary and I are going to talk about the Olympics tomorrow. When does that start? And then I was like, opening ceremonies are Friday?
Yeah.
I just, again, I like the Winter Olympics. Some people aren't Winter Olympics, that they'd rather watch summer or whatever. And there's more things to watch in summer. Obviously, they have more things going on. And the basketball, I think basketball should be a Winter Olympic sport. You play it indoors. Just play it. Just play in the winter. Add it to the Winter Olympics. Then you can have the stoppage.
Space
Hockey
it out.
And basketball can have their stoppages all at the same time. It works. It's fine. But it just kind of snuck up on me. I'm looking forward to it. The hockey's going to be fun. I don't know who else I'm supposed to be watching. And I'm usually pretty good, even on the fringe stuff, of being like, oh, we got to watch this guy from the U.S. or this girl from the U.S. because they're going to be really good. They're a sneaky medal pick for the luge or whatever it is. But I have no idea on any of this year. I'm completely behind on catching up with all of this stuff.
I think you got two things at play. Unlike when we grew up where there was the one paper and 3 channels and the one channel that carried it, promoted the heck out of it. We're in a world now where the media outlets are so huge that if you're not a regular TV watcher, in this case, NBC, the Olympics, if you're not on Peacock and you're not watching NBC regularly, you're kind of not getting that promotion like you used to. Right. And so it will sneak up on you. I mean, it snuck up on me just because it was like you, but I was 2-3 weeks ago. I remember seeing the ads on TV going, oh, that's here now. We're going to have to talk about that. And that's the only reason I paid more attention than you, is just happened to see the ads. But I guess I could look it up. I don't have any in-depth to tell you about we should be watching this and we should be watching that. I know, a couple names, Michaela Schifrin, who is one of our big alpine skiers all time. She's coming back in this year to try to get the gold she didn't get last go round 4 years ago. Other than that, I can't tell you anything. The only thing that's exciting for me, which I like to see, is the introduction of ski mountaineering or skimo, right? New event, and it's a grinder because it's all about they climb uphill on skis and by hand, by foot. There's a trail, and then they ski back down. So to me, that gets back to what I call real sport, right? We're not judging on technicalities, and it's just raw, get to the top and get back down as fast as you can by there are ski gates on the way down, so there is a component like that. But otherwise, it's a just straight up race. All energy, all strength. Can you do it and outlast your opponent?
Yeah, see, I like any of those sports. Look, I've said for years, if I'm flipping channels, which this is why it kind of snuck up on me because I don't really watch TV that much anymore. It's weird that we have so many more options and I watch less TV than I did years ago. But if I were flipping channels and say got to some random, the joke is ESPN Ocho or whatever, and I see 8-year-olds playing marbles or whatever, and one kid has a jacket that says USA on the back, I'm stopping. I'm like, all right.
What are we doing here?
Whose ass are we kicking today in marbles? Let's go, little Timmy. Come on. That kind of thing. But it's now gotten to the point where I don't know who I'm supposed to be rooting for. Like, I don't have the personalities, but I'll watch and I'll be rooting for the U.S. And I'd rather have it be, like you said, an actual sport than to sit there and go, oh, that judge didn't like the way this person did this artistic thing. No. Are you faster? Were you stronger?
Sure.
Did you do it quicker? Whatever it was. That I can get behind. I'm with you. I don't like the, ice dancing I'll watch the figure skating because it's supposed to be the big event and they shove it down your throat.
Yes.
But I'd much rather enjoy the speed skating, stuff like that, where I go, okay, that person won because they got around that oval faster than the other person.
Right. Didn't fall.
They're better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say it. Figure skating is the oldest Olympic winter sports from 1908. And I still go, really? That it wasn't bobsleigh. It was figure skating. That's the oldest Olympic sport. So
that was the first Winter Olympics, just figure skating?
No, they had some others, but that's the one they kind of list as the one.
Okay.
Because you didn't get like hockey till 1920.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ski jumping and stuff didn't come along till 24. So I didn't do my historical, but it was very limited that first year, and figure skating was the prominent sport. And it caught me off guard. Like, you would have thought other sports would have been the sport than figure skating that year. So
yeah, like downhill skiing or something like that. You would thought would be. You know what they need to bring back? Because I believe this used to be. Maybe I'm wrong on this. Tug of war. Wasn't tug of war a Olympic sport at one point?
Was it?
I
know it was always on
Battle in the day.
Battle of the Network Stars. It was. I'll tell you that.
Of course.
But that would be a good one to bring back. Boy, that'd be a competition. Look that up.
I am right now. I'm asking our good friend Ralph that I named my Chat GPT. Yes, tug of war was once an official Olympic sport from 1900 to 1920.
Real men.
So bring that back. How awesome would that be? Big fat guy as your anchor on the Olympic team, just sitting back there eating a ham sandwich. Just some guy like, yeah, go ahead, try to drag me. I'm not going anywhere. That'd be amazing.
Who would be Japanese sumo wrestlers? That might be.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
no, yeah. I mean, as we talk about sports, same thing. In diving, other than you didn't make a big splash, it's still judge. I'm like you, pure competition. Who was the fastest? Who did it? Whatever it is, the mark is. It's based on that versus interpretation of a group of people who said that's good, that's bad. I like that better. I'm with you. I all of that stuff. Again, I won't know any of these kids' names. Kids, I mean, they're going to be in their 20s most likely. But if they have USA on the back, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm with you. Let's go. We need to win, and I don't want to get angry to judge because they picked whatever other country over us because they thought, oh well, she didn't do it with enough flair. Like, I know.
Whatever.
There's always curling. I mean, that's big up here. Oddly, there's a few curling houses here. So if you want to really watch competition of throwing the stone down the ice and get your brooms out and knock the winter version of shuffleboard.
Yeah, I love that though.
Yeah,
I love curling. Is awesome.
I always laugh. I call it's a drinking game. Like it's
Well,
big in
sure, of course
Canada,
it is.
right? To me, that's the drinking game because you'd have these people go and like, all right, we're going to sling the rock down there, and you
Yeah.
two with the broom scrape,
It's
and
Canadian.
they all got beers in their hands.
You call it a drinking game. I call it Canadian bowling. I mean, it's because that's what in the U.S. that's your drinking game is to go bowling.
Mm-hmm.
You drink pitchers of beer and bowl. It's the same thing in Canada. They drink pitchers of beer and throw the rock and curl.
Slide it down the ice.
Apparently, we have a good new curling team because John Schuster. Why I remember that name, I have no idea. John Schuster was the captain, the head, the main guy on the U.S. curling team that had done pretty good here in recently.
Yep.
Apparently, there's a younger group now
breakout
that has a chance to medal perhaps at this Olympics. I'm rooting for them. I don't know your names. I'll watch. I'll look up. I will look up because it's in Italy, so they're ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to watch. This is the other thing. As a Gen X person, I love the fact that I can watch stuff live now because you'll remember 1980, all that stuff, even when it was in New York at Lake Placid, tape delay.
Yep. Primetime coverage at night for the advertising. So, yep. But we live in a different world, fortunately, because you're like me, kind of a varied schedule. So you're not at work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So we can pick up some of the live action that's as it's happening versus watch the edited tape delay later tonight.
Yeah, that's the thing that, I mean, even you talk to, some of the kids and you'll be like, yeah, well, we didn't, the Olympics, you had to turn off your local news and they told you if you don't want to know what happens in the U.S. Russia hockey game, we're going to tell you in the next segment. So turn your TV off or mute it or whatever. And then they told you literally right before the Olympic coverage happened, they told you that the U.S. had won. Now, thankfully, my parents were like, okay, well, you want to watch the game, turn it off. So we turned off the TV like 10 minutes before the Olympics came on. And then I want to say right at 7:00, maybe turned the TV back on. Had no idea. I'm so glad because even and I guess I would have been 8 years old at the time, hadn't turned 9 yet, but as an 8-year-old, riveted. And this is probably what started. I didn't know any of those hockey players. I didn't know.
Not at all.
Probably most people didn't know. They weren't using pros then. I had no idea who Jim Craig was. But I tell you what, 3 weeks later, I had a poster of Jim Craig hung on my bedroom door with the flag wrapped around him after they won the gold medal. Oh, you better believe it. And I couldn't believe it when Jim Craig got to the NHL and sucked. I was like, this is impossible. He beat the Russians. How can he not? How's he not able to stop the Bruins? This is crazy.
Well, maybe not for you because of your family, but for me, that was like my first exposure to hockey. Like I knew the sport existed, never seen it, maybe some black and white photos in an encyclopedia, but it just did not exist in Virginia, Southern Virginia at that time. So that was my first exposure of what is this? They're like skating and it's on ice. And it was amazing just for that initial exposure to the sport and on such a grand stage as the Olympics and beating the Russians because, Cold War, we were going through that at that point. So it was, I always found, now, did I go back to hockey after that? No, not at all. Well, but at that moment in time, and I do remember, there was someone saying that, how Craig just didn't make it in the NHL. So I was like, what happened? Thought he was supposed to be the best.
I'm not sure there were many of those guys, if I remember, from that 80 team that ended up playing in the NHL for any long term or I don't even know if there's any Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
I mean, I may be completely wrong on that, but I don't think there were.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to think from watching the movie, and I give that there's probably some credit. Is
Miracle? Yeah.
Yeah. They chose those players for a specific reason.
Right.
They wanted to be smaller and faster than what a typical hockey player was to go against the Russians. So I'm sure for a short series, what you're aiming for, that's what you wanted. but longevity at, say, the full professional level where we're going to play seasons and the game's probably managed a bit differently. They probably weren't designed for a full pro career that way, but they were good enough as a team at that moment. This is what we need.
Yeah. The U.S. Miracle on Ice team, no players have been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. So,
and yet they should, right? As a team.
I mean, maybe
Right?
the U.S. team, the team itself is in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame.
Okay.
But let's see. It said several players had solid NHL careers: Neil Broughton, Mark Johnson, Dave Christian, Ken Morrow, and Mike Ramsey. Again, Mark Johnson is probably the only name that I really remember from that. But I mean, Mike Eruzione, Jim Craig, they didn't have big NHL careers.
Where is the NHL Hall of Fame? That's a good question. I don't even know. You said it. I'm like, there is one.
No, I put in a NHL Hall of Fame. It's actually just a Hockey Hall of Fame. I'm sure it's in Montreal, if I had to guess, or Toronto. Probably Toronto.
Canadian.
Herb Brooks is in the Hockey Hall of Fame for the builder category, his impact on hockey, including the Olympic victory. But yeah, no, the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, which I don't know where that's located. Let's see, U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame location.
Probably New York. Just oddly.
Lake Placid, because that's the only U.S. hockey stuff that's going well. Let's see. Ralph is thinking. Oh no, Eveleth, Minnesota.
Oh my goodness.
Eveleth, Eveleth, Minnesota. Opened in 1973.
Okay. Road trip it shall be.
Right there, yeah, right.
I can't remember. Was it New York? There's somewhere. What did I see? It was the U.S. Water Skiing Hall of Fame. So I was just like, what?
Well, we were just up near Jonestown, New York.
Okay.
Jamestown.
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 Yeah, that's in Western New York near.
Yeah, because we were just up there for St. Bonaventure, and they have like the Comedy Hall of Fame is there.
Lucy, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there's something else that's out that way. Yeah. So, the actual Hockey Hall of Fame at Toronto. That's what I figured.
Okay.
Yep. And that was founded in 1943. So, anyway, so yeah, Winter Olympics will be good. Where I used to get all my Winter Olympics coverage when I was a youngster, reading about all this stuff, no longer is going to exist, Gary. I don't know. I'm sure you saw this.
Oh, I've seen it.
The Washington Post has decided to shuttle their sports section, and I believe they made a ton of cuts to their Metro section as well. Somebody described it to me, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, that they're going to try to become the political version of like the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
Like the Wall Street Journal doesn't have sports. That was always the big joke. You'd see somebody reading the Wall Street Journal and be like, hey, can I get the sports section?
Sports section?
Yeah, there's no sports section in the Wall Street Journal. So apparently the Washington Post is going to try to go that way, except for politics. So they're going to try to become the political side of news and reports and everything else, just like Wall Street Journal covers, obviously. Wall Street, I think it's a losing proposition, to be honest, because what advantage do they have over anybody else covering politics in Washington, D.C.? But again, a sad day. I knew a lot of the folks over there at the sports section. It's terrible when anybody loses a job, gets fired, go, whatever it is. It sucks. But here's the reality of it. Not those people necessarily. They may be doing it behind closed doors. But the public-facing people out there posting things on X and Threads and Instagram and wherever else, talking about how Jeff Bezos should not do this because, well, he has billions of dollars. He can afford to keep that paper running. He was losing over $50 million a year on that paper. At what point do you just say, okay, it's a losing proposition, and I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it's my neighbor, a billionaire, whoever. I never try to tell people how they should spend their money because it's none of my business. And if he doesn't want to spend the money to keep that paper open, it's none of my business.
Correct. I mean, and that's, I too, we'll get off a little tangent here, saw the hand wringing of what should be done and why this is concerning. And I, I take the step back and go, let's just talk about this in general terms. It's the evolution of media,
Yep.
right? Newspapers are great, but I can tell you when I was in school, they were talking about the demise of the newspaper. So it was coming, the age of it being the true and only source of news and information was going to happen. Here we are, almost 40 years later from that time. And we've reached that point where you have to make, if it's going to survive, it has to adjust to the times it's in. So having this full-fledged paper with all the things that they did and culture and arts, it's probably not going to exist, and people have to accept that. So evolution, right? You look at his baseline. You said 50. I saw one year they lost $100 million. So my question becomes is whether it's his money, I don't care if it's a corporation with no person behind it. They sit there and go, why are we losing 100? Why? There's no reason to. We can make it more efficient. We can do other things. There is no reason to lose this kind of money. And of course, here's my little spiel. The same people who are crying that are the people that don't care about the federal government just spending money just because with no results. I mean,
Right.
There's my little argument there. Like, no, there has to be a logic. We have to say we can do this. We can't do that. I'm sure the Post could survive. And you were talking about the transition, but we just can't keep paying this for that and this for that because there's no advertising demand for it. No one, right? You have to adjust to the demand. And so sports, look, I know from you and the friends we went to school with, the Washington sports section, huge, right?
Oh, yeah.
A part of me says, you guys can't figure out how to make that kind of a standalone thing for the entire Washington. And it doesn't have to be through the Post. Like, okay, guys, you're not writing for the Post anymore. You're going to go form your own media company and do this because I think there could be enough demand. But again, it goes back to the scalability of you're not going to get $250,000 a year to write one article a week. You're probably going to make 50, right. 60, 70,000. You're going to have to write 3 or 4 to make this viable. So, but yeah, big changes there in Washington with the Post.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with, again, Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon and guys like that were the columnists there in the Post, and it was great. And I don't consider myself friends with Michael Wilbon. I would consider myself an acquaintance of Michael Wilbon, a guy that if I reached out to through certain channels, I'm sure he would get back to me if I had a request or something. He's always been very nice to me, but it's not the same. And to your point, everybody that's complaining about, oh, this is terrible, they're not going to have a paper, they're not going to have this. You know what? If it were a viable business, somebody would hire all of these people that just got let go, start their own newspaper, and put the stake right through the heart of the Post and put it out of business for good. I don't foresee that happening because no one with any kind of money to back it is looking at it and saying, that's a good business opportunity. Like, as you said, it's just not. If you were going to somebody right now and said, I've got an idea, I want to start a newspaper, and they'd be like, you're going to start a newspaper? Are you insane? Nobody does that anymore. So that's my only thing is it's just not a viable business plan anymore. As horrible as that is to say, because again, there are a lot of good people that were writing for the Post. And I know a lot of those guys. My buddy Gene Wong, who I do consider a friend, who was a longtime writer for them, covered George Mason stuff and other things. Gene was always a guy, whenever I was doing a radio show, whether as a producer or a host, and I called him or sent him a text and said, Gene, can you do this? If it was in his schedule, absolutely. If he were in his car driving, he would pull over and stop and give me 10, 12 minutes. Guys like that are all over the Washington Post. But the problem is, nobody is going to hire them now to start a newspaper because it's just not a viable business plan. And it sucks for them. It absolutely sucks.
Yeah, the change in journalism. I mean, Maine is, obviously not ground zero for journalism, but I will point out here, we have 2 main papers, Portland Press Herald, Bangor Daily News.
Right.
They still sort of exist. They're trying to survive with their paywalls, but they're not. And most of the other more local papers, I mean, you just look at it, they exist, but There's no real people writing. It's cut and paste from other things. So journalism isn't as real as it used to be. And then again, evolution, right? We have the internet. Why do I need to buy a paper when it's on my phone? And unfortunately, for the Post, I don't even have to pay your subscription rate because I don't feel there's anything you're giving me that's not any different that I can't get for free from all the other headlines that get scraped on my news feed. So I don't need that. Now, some people claim, there's in-depth writing, investigative journalism. Oh, okay. But what's the market? What is the market that says I'm going to buy the paper, pay the subscription, to pay your salary to tell me all this every single day? And I remember when I left DC, 2007, 2008, 2007, we had a Post subscription, but geez, it was mostly, sales circulars stuffed in there, and it just everything had changed. It just wasn't the information point anymore. And again, look at timing. Things change, and me relying on a paper that comes out the next morning to get information, just not there. God bless them for trying to go through the internet and make that transition. But there's, when there's too many free things, there's not a lot of people going to just keep paying for you for anything particular special that you're writing.
And I know you can get the analysis and everything else, but as far as they talked about it, ESPN started putting the death knell into newspapers, into sports, because you didn't have to wait to find out who won, because you could watch Sports Center that night and get all the scores. Whether if they didn't show your team's highlight, you at least saw the score. You knew before you got the newspaper the next day whether they won or not. And now you're not getting a game story or write-up, but more and more AI is doing that stuff. George Mason is using AI to write some of their game recaps for some of their sports. It's not great. And I told them that last night in the media room. We were talking about stuff, and I said, hey, by the way, I guess we've started using AI because I saw that we signed the partner. I saw we signed the partnership. So I said, I guess we're doing this now. And the partnership wasn't a secret. They put it on the webpage. And they're like, yeah, which one? And I told them which story I read. I said, a paragraph in, I said, I knew it was AI. And they're like, well, but you still got the information. I said, yeah, but it reads terribly. I was like, it's just, yeah, I guess. I said, but it's no different than if you just put the box score up and I could have read through the box score myself and got all this information without, as they call it, AI slop. It was bad. Not Mason's fault. It's just not to the point. You can't fool somebody yet with AI writing, somebody who's in that industry and, sports, whether it's, media, I guess, not necessarily writing. But as soon as I read it, I went, no human writes this way. You can just tell the way things were phrased. And I was like, this is just bad writing. Yep. So AI's got to get better.
And it will. I think, and then the question is, you can tell, and it bothers you. Does it matter to the general population?
Probably not.
Here, I'll step backwards. Sports Illustrated, right? That was the be all end all for us, right? Long articles, in depth, and they kind of went by the wayside. Why? Because people didn't care anymore. And that's not to take anything from the talent for the people that wrote for all those years, wrote for the Post, etc. It just became the evolution of the reader who just said, I don't need all of that. Just give me headlines, give me quick reads. I knew when I started seeing on certain articles on the internet, when they told you how long the read was, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like that told me this is where we're at now. People just want that information as fast and cleanly as possible. And very few people are going to go seek out that extra level of analysis.
Isn't it crazy though, that the number one podcast in the country, in the world, you could argue, is Joe Rogan, who does 2.5, 3 hour long podcasts, and he's the number one guy in podcasting. So yes, people, you as you say, and I agree with you, people don't want that long form article and stuff, yet they do want to listen to a 2.5, 3 hour conversation.
Well,
it's crazy.
And to me, that goes with the quasi entertainment. Look at the Daily Show when that took off, right? It was news, but it wasn't news that we were used to. And, people didn't want to be maybe talked at. They just want to observe and listen more. Maybe that's a part of it. But you're right. It's the evolution of what is what the masses are seeking, I think, is what we're looking at. And it's just that change. We talk about this all the time. I could talk to my son. Headlines he knows is what shows up on his phone. And that's all he cares about. And there's nothing beyond that he needs. It's like, oh, that happened? Okay. And half the stuff that I see on my feed and talk to him about, he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. And he'll ask, how does that affect me right now? It doesn't? Okay. So I think whether you want to call it the changing of the guard, the dumbing down the masses, I don't know. People just don't need that anymore. I mean, look at Twitter. People rely on that for their information, and you're limited in character space and but that's where a lot of people are finding out things. I find out a lot of things on there. I know I have to secondary research it because you can't trust everything you see.
You can't trust anything. Yeah.
But I like the bite size, is that something I need to figure out or pay attention to? Move on. Is that something I need to figure out and pay attention to? Move on. Right. Instead of, I guess that's the old headlines. If you were looking at the paper, you'd look at the big print and go, is that something I need to know about? And then, read further.
Right.
It's just how we're getting it and how fast we get it. And print media, i.e. magazines, it's just, they're all dying because that's just not our world anymore.
Yeah. But again, it just is weird that, the short attention span, generation, if you will. And I don't think we fall into that necessarily. And maybe we're the reason, our generation, because Rogan's one of us, he's a Gen Xer. Maybe it's because we did grow up and not having, TikTok or Vine was the original TikTok thing where Vine was 6 seconds, I think it was all the length the video could be. Yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, these kids can't pay any attention for any more than that. So I don't know who's driving. From what I understand, Rogan has a lot of younger listeners as well, or viewers, whatever it is. And you see now Netflix taking a lot of these podcasts and throwing them up on, for video stuff. This idea that people just have these short attention spans and cannot pay attention. Well, I think Rogan disproves all of that.
Yeah.
That you want to have these conversations. You want to be able to get a little bit more in depth than the 5.5 minutes that you might get on CNN or that you might get on Fox or MS Now or whatever it is. You're not having a conversation at all at any depth on those type of shows, because if you're a politician and you go on there, you might get 2 questions asked to you. The first one is going to be about whatever the topic is that the person has you on. The second question is going to be some sort of gotcha question that they're trying to ask to see if they can trip you up to get a sound bite that they want. And if you get the third question, it's going to be a minute of pontificating from the person who is sitting there in the news desk thinking they're smarter than everybody else. And you're going to have about 30 seconds before they go, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we have to go. It's a hard break. there's the interviews that they do on those shows. So I think people have just stopped paying attention to that, which is why Rogan gets more downloads per episode than all of those stations combined get on a nightly basis. It's Correct. Not even close.
Yep. And I think another part of it, it's not just, it's speed information we talked about. I think for a certain segment, and like you were talking about younger ones, my son included, even though he doesn't do Joe, that is their interaction, right? They may not hang out with, remember us in college, where we spent hours upon hours together, hanging out, talking, right? For a lot of reasons we've talked about they don't do that anymore. So I think this is almost their companionship, right? We tune into Joe Rogan. There's going to be information. They're not talking at me like you need to hear this and you need to do that. It's people talking, and you're just like the third person side, like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I like that. They're not right. And wherever the conversation goes, it goes. And I think the spontaneity of that also is what some of these generation people are craving, is that companionship where I used to turn the radio on, music, talk, whatever, because it was playing in the background and I felt like something was there. I think this is their modern version of it, but it's just a little bit more informative and things are curious about. I mean, I think, if he didn't have good guests, I don't know if he would be doing as well. So there is there's always content involved that you gotta.
But that's true, but I will say this, and Rogan has said this, and I've been listening to Rogan even before he blew up during the COVID stuff. I was listening to his show because I enjoyed the comedians that he would have on and that kind of stuff, and you'd learn about some guys that you'd never heard of before. I want to say Rogan might have been the first time that I'd ever heard like Bert Kreischer, who now I'm a big fan of. I think he's a very funny dude. I think he's very creative. He can be annoying at times, but that's like one of the first times I had heard him on. And I think that's how I got introduced to Bill Burr, and then Bill Burr's podcast was through Rogan. But the funny thing is, and Rogan has said this from day one, it's only people that he's interested in talking to. He's just trying to entertain himself. He's not sitting down and going, what would people out there like to listen to? You know, he's not doing that where you go, what could I get? How could I get
this week's subject?
Right, exactly. Yep. And he'll have people on that do, like he just had on Mike Benz, who's an investigative reporter guy. I think he's a former State Department guy. I was just listening to it yesterday about the Epstein files. So he's going to have people like that on and do those type of things. But then he'll have on a comedian, like he just had Kreischer on earlier this week. Or he'll have, I mean, it's been a while now, but at one point he had on, do you remember the bee lady that got real big on like X and Instagram? She's like, she goes and saves beehives.
Oh, okay.
But when she does her videos, she has a very, very soft way of talking.
Okay.
And at the end of her videos, she always says, and it was another great day to save the bees. And that's how it ends. And it's hypnotic.
NPR.
Yes, very much so. He had her on because he was like, I can't stop watching your videos. I mean, it was just, you wouldn't think all the comedians and the other people he has on and politicians, and then the bee lady. And it was just like, okay. And I listened to the whole episode because I'm like, I want to hear from the bee lady. I want to hear about how she saves the bees.
So, but this still goes to my content thing. Maybe they're not planning it as much, but he makes it interesting, right? Because he's interested, which makes you go, I need to hear about this now, right?
Because he's curious. That's the main thing. He always talks about how curious he is.
Yeah. And so let me ask you.
Yeah.
How you do way more podcasts than I do. It's not something I've gotten into. I'm still a reader. I don't know.
You talking about listening to podcasts?
Listening to podcasts. Yeah. How are you using it in your day-to-day? How's it fit in your world?
Mainly because, I mean, I'm coaching high school basketball. It's a 30 to 35 minute drive, 45 depending on traffic. Same thing going to Mason. It's 30, 35, 40 minutes depending on traffic. I'll listen to them like as I'm getting ready. I have a shower speaker, so I'll turn it on and I'll either listen to music or I'll listen to a podcast while I'm, showering, getting ready, shaving, that kind of stuff. That's maybe, again, 20, 25 minutes at most. In the car, I'll listen to it. I'm not like constantly like with my headphones in or earbuds, like listening to it. Maybe if I'm out doing yard work, I might throw a podcast in because I'll look and be like, okay, this is 90 minutes. I mean, Rogan's are 2 hours, but I'll go, okay, this one I'm listening to is an hour and 15. Okay, well, for an hour and 15 minutes, I'll rake leaves or I'll do some other yard work, and then it'll just get me through. And I'll like, when this podcast ends, then I know it's time to take a break, go get some whatever. So that's how I'm consuming it, is just as my commute, as I'm driving. It's great. Before I have a long road trip, or a flight or something, I'll make sure that I have 3 or 4 lined up and downloaded, and I'll literally put my headphones in on the plane and go to sleep and just have the podcast on and just listen like I would to music and stuff. That's all. It just varies. It just depends on what's going on, but it's mainly in the car.
Okay. No, and I was curious because, again, why are people, because podcasts are big. Look what we're doing. Why are people drawn to it? Because as of yet, I haven't been as part of my media ingestion or whatever you want to call it. I read, check a few things, but if I'm in the car doing my commute, I'm still tuned into the music. I haven't switched over to listening to the podcast. So
just depends on what you like.
Yeah. And I think, but I also believe, besides I was talking about earlier, the companionship, TV is now so disjointed from what it was when we grew up, right?
Yeah.
Must see TV, right?
Yep.
I just think people are like, hey, I can listen to the podcast, rake leaves, do a million other things, multitask, but I don't have to watch it. I mean, you can watch Rogan, but I'm sure a lot of people are
Right.
also listening to it and allowing, them to multitask and do other things, but still getting that connection that they're looking for.
Yes. You're now you're back. I said you were
there we
frozen
go.
there for a minute. We heard everything. But you're just kind of frozen, like looking into the camera. It was a good look. It didn't get you with your eyes closed or some crazy thing. But yeah, I mean, I think what my thing is growing up, we got used to, at least I did, listening. I listened to talk radio as a kid. Now it was Don and Mike for those people who are here in DC. You would have Don and Mike, and then later it was Howard Stern, that was on the talk station when Don and Mike moved to afternoon. So I spent a lot of time in that. And I first started out doing Guy Talk Radio up in Baltimore was one of my first things, sandwiched in between Howard Stern and Don and Mike on the local Baltimore station. We were the local show. So I think maybe that's why I have an affinity for it, because I've never, other than when at the college station, never played music as the job. Like that was never, it was either what they called Guy Talk or doing sports talk or anything, or doing like this or other podcasts that I've done. I've never worked on a music show before. I'm not against it. I'd love it. I'd have a great time doing it. But I think it's just because that's kind of what I grew up on, was this kind of stuff.
Well, and it's very similar. I mean, have I done music stations, worked in music? Yes. But here's my story. Here's where the world comes full circle. When I was 8, 9 years old, I had mom and dad gave me their old clock radio to go to bed to. And I just remember for whatever reason, I liked AM at night because it was buzzy, it was crackly, and just sounded different than FM stereo. And of all things, me as 8, 9, 10-year-old somehow got hooked onto WBZ Boston with Larry Glick at night.
Yeah.
And this guy just randomly talked about whatever. And I found that so entertaining that he was way away from me and talking about these things in places I had not even, Malden, I've never heard of that. And so-and-so's restaurant out in whatever. I was blown away. And so that started my nighttime listening of talk radio, because even now I listen to repeats of Art Bell and Coast to Coast with George Norrie, all the conspiracy. That's my nighttime go to sleep listening. Or if I'm up late, I listen to that because I find that more entertaining than the music channels, which is more for driving. Still into that, still love it. Maybe that's my version of the podcast. I don't know, but that's what I listen to at night when I'm trying to calm down and just kind of settle in and refocus my day. It's those shows. I love them.
It's funny because you mentioned George Norrie, Art Bell, all that kind of stuff. I had when George Mason used to be in the CAA, it was a lot of car trips. You could drive Old Dominion, William and Mary, even in some cases East Carolina, UNC Wilmington or whatever. But JM, you would have the day trip. So you drive down, play at 7, and then you'd be driving home later that night, probably like 10 o'clock. And we used to all go together, a lot of us from Mason. So Jeff O'Beer, who is the, basically the Patriot Productions head, he's at the associate athletic director there. He used to go with us because he would, film the games or whatever. And I would, if I was in charge of the radio, and that was the rule, if you were the driver, you picked what you listened to, I would always throw on Coast to Coast AM.
Oh yeah.
And it's a list. And they'd be like, what is this? I'm like, dude, you guys have no idea. This is the greatest show on the radio. We just got to figure out what they're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah.
And they still, Jeff will still, when it comes up, people like, those were the most fun, because it would just be like, and that's why I loved Art Bell, because you could come up with anything and you call Art Bell and he'd be like, all right, so how do you feel about being a shape-shifting lizard person? Like that kind of thing. And he just like this actual thing. It was never like, I'll get the F out of here. You're not this. You're not a time traveler. No one believes. He'd just be like, well, what do we
Tell me
have to look
more.
forward to? Yes. What is it that's going to happen? Is there anything we can do? All that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. So that's why one of my favorite podcasts I listen to now is a comedian, Sam Tripoli, who does a podcast called Tinfoil Hat.
Mm-hmm.
And Carrie laughs at me all the time because, I'll be playing it again as I'm getting ready, or if we're in the car, and I'll usually turn them off because I know she'd rather listen to music, but I'll have it on and you start the car and your phone automatically connects and starts playing. And she'll be like, oh, is this tinfoil hat again? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, and what are they talking about? And I'll tell her, and she'll be like, and sit there and listen. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking she's not paying attention because she's like looking at her phone. And all of a sudden she'll go, I don't think that's true. And I'm like, I know it's not true. It's just he's a comedian. Him and his partner Johnny Woodard, they're comedians. I was like, they're just having fun because again, they're doing the Art Bell thing where they don't care. The person can come on and talk about whatever they want, and they're going to be like, okay, fine. And they don't push back. They're not like, come on, man, you don't actually believe that, do you? They don't do any of that. They're just like, okay, well, what else have you like? All of that stuff. So it's kind of funny because that leads me into the Epstein stuff that came out this week, where they're just going to have, Rogan had, again, Mike Benz on, and that was a much more serious, like Benz went into a lot of stuff, like from the 50s and how even the CIA, like before when they were the OSS, and he gave like a history lesson. That's the other thing I like about Rogan. When he has experts on, man, you learn stuff, which is great. Tinfoil hat. They're not pushing back on anybody. They're going to have somebody else talking about the Epstein files. They're getting into the nonsense of the Epstein files. And they didn't necessarily do this. It is fascinating to me to see. You and I were talking about this before the show. The names that come up, and then people are suddenly like, oh, pearl clutching. How in the world is there? It's like, people, relax. Just because they're named in it doesn't mean, and I'm not talking about the big names like that we know are connected in some way, shape, or form. I'm talking about just ancillary stuff. Like, I just want to see a name be mentioned and have somebody be like, how did I end up in, what's he emailing about me for? Like, I'd love for it to be like, oh, I just saw this latest movie, or I heard so-and-so's latest album and really loved it. Then you're like, wait, the Rolling Stones are in the Epstein file, something like that. I'd love to see that. And I said to you beforehand, I wish I were in the Epstein files in that
Absolutely.
way. It would be fantastic for him to be like, I was in D.C. the other day and heard these guys on Sports Talk Radio. I love that Bill Rowland show. It's fantastic. I'd be like, this is amazing. Jeffrey Epstein was listening to my show. I wouldn't want to be invited to the island, but I'd love for him to have listed me in his files.
Well, that's the funny thing. We've heard all these stories. Oh, so-and-so's mentioned. I'm like, well, there's, who knows? I'm told 3 to 4 million documents. Right. And you get into these documents.
3 million that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah. And it could have been because the statement was, I remember that day because I listened to Bill and Gary before I went and did XYZ. And so just the search of Bill Rowland, Gary Dollarhide, they're in the files.
Exactly.
Well, what were we in there for? I need to know now, right? Oh, because she knew that they were listening to us before they did something else.
And look, there's a lot of salacious stuff in there. That's probably true. There's a lot of salacious stuff in there that has no basis in fact whatsoever.
Correct.
But depending on which side of whichever color tie, as Bill Burr likes to say, whichever color tie your guy is wearing, you're going to assume that everybody else wearing the other color tie is guilty. And your people, oh no, those are just salacious details that anybody could have made up, but they didn't do it. I got news for you. It's all of them.
It's all of them.
Red and blue tie both. They're all corrupt. Every single one of them.
I've told friends, because here they're always like, oh, you were in D.C. I'm like, yep, I was in D.C. And let me tell you, because friends who are in government, work for government, like you're affected by it somehow.
Of course.
And the truth is, the things that some of these people want to clutch their pearls over, as you said, and talk about, there's just as bad things going on every single day in Washington, D.C. that you would be like, what the is going on here? But it's accepted There's a dark underside to Washington that you people would not believe that exists as normalcy. This is just what we do. And you would be like, what the? So, again, I'm not defending anyone on the Epstein files or what happened, but there's a lot of dirty things on everybody in Washington, D.C. So I'm just throwing that out there for everybody that wonders what we're talking,
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. And I'll say this, and I've put this. This is not some big revelation. I've put it on X. I have zero use for probably 95 to 99% of politicians because I don't think any of them. Again, I don't care what side you're on, what tie your person wears, what color blouse they have on, if they're Republican, Democrat. I don't care. 95 to 99% of them are out for themselves. And all you have to do is look at how many of them became billionaires, millionaires, when they're doing it on a salary that is less than $300,000 a year.
Correct.
It's garbage for them to be. I know everybody point to Nancy Pelosi. It's not just Nancy Pelosi. It's not just Bernie Sanders. It's all of them that are in doing all that kind of stuff. So I have no use for them. So I'm not, as far as I'm concerned, if the DOJ, if somebody else has any information that could take down whether it's Trump or Clinton or burn it to the ground. I don't care. That's where I am on all this stuff. If they did any of these things that are listed in there, burn them all to the ground. Doesn't matter what side you're on. You should not be rooting for this person. Well, I don't know. I think they're lying. No. If they have evidence of it, burn them all down. All of it. I'd be fine with that.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
again, look at all the fraud going on in Minnesota. We've touched on that in the past. I'm not even talking about the ICE stuff. I'm talking about the all the money.
The money fraud.
Stolen. Yeah, the money fraud. And they're saying now California could be 10 times that. I saw the latest thing out there, and I kind of read, but didn't get real deep into it because I was in the middle of something else, that they have all these hospice facilities.
Oh, yeah.
There's like 200 and some in a 2-mile radius. Some of them, again, much like the Somali fraud, where it's at the same address or it's an empty warehouse and they're supposed to be a hospice facility or whatever it is. And they're just bilking money.
Yes, they are.
Burn it all down. I don't care where it is, who's involved. I don't like Gavin Newsom. I think he's a slick. I think he's, again, whatever. I don't like his policies. It's fine. I don't like him as a human being more than I dislike his policies. Burn it all down. He's a fraud. They're all frauds. The stuff that they're doing with the Palisades fire is a joke. Burn it all down. I'm tired of all of it.
Well, how about the high-speed rail? That, to me, is the funniest thing, right? Spent all this money, and we don't even have gravel down to lay tracks.
Right.
It's just like
billions of dollars gone.
Billions. Hey, by the way, if you take the Somali fraud, they're saying up to $9 billion out of Minnesota. You could have run the Washington Post for quite a few years.
Yeah,
but just saying.
Right.
Just saying.
Exactly. That's my whole thing. It's like billions of dollars, and everybody. This is the collective thing you get. Okay. Well, next time, it's like all the money that they had for the homeless, and their homeless problem increased. It's like you're spending all this money,
and it gets worse,
and nothing gets better. Like what? And again, it's not just California. I live in Virginia. They've screwed stuff up here royally. Both the Democrats and Republicans. This used to be I can remember growing up, and again, not knowing a ton about politics, but I listened to my parents and their friends and neighbors talk about things and how they were so glad they lived in Virginia because it was a lower taxes than Maryland. Like Maryland was the state that had the higher taxes and all this kind of stuff. They've screwed this state up royally. This used to be a fantastic, and maybe it's just looking through the lens of being a kid and not understanding everything else. But I can remember Virginia used to be a great place to grow up. Now, I was just talking to Carrie last night. I'm like, you know what? If we moved in a few years, I wouldn't care. For years, I was like, I don't want to live anywhere else. I love Virginia. This is where I grew up. I've lived here all my life. This is where I want to stay. Now I'm like, you know what? Don't care. We can leave. I'm just tired of it. We voted in a CIA spook as governor. It's ridiculous.
Postal inspector. She was a postal inspector too. Don't forget that.
Whatever. She worked for the CIA. Again, as I said over and over again, I don't care. She could have been a Republican. It doesn't matter. She worked for the CIA. I have no use for her. Just no use. All of them dirty. Burn it all down.
Having grown up in Virginia, I felt the same way about leaving. Maine. Wow, that's an acquired taste.
I was going to say, but you went to Maine, which is even kookier than Virginia, I think.
So it is and isn't. So right now, Southern Maine is basically Northern Massachusetts, and Northern Maine is trying to hang on to being Maine, which, if you break it down in political perspective, would be just leave me alone, don't touch me, don't talk to me.
That's what I want.
We all take right, but that's starting to. They're starting to fight that too, just because of the amount of people coming up from the rest of New England. But one of the things we go through here, the state went through this whole thing, and I'm going to get on my soapbox here. We have to do alternative energy. It's got to be about electricity and solar. And they fought hard, and we don't want you to have the propane furnaces and all that anymore. And now what's happening? Skyrocketing electric prices.
Of course.
So you took all that away, saying this is going to be better and cheaper, and now all of a sudden I see people with $600, $700, $800 electrical bills, and not just because it's winter, not at all, right? And so I had to just go. So you said that we had to do this, and this is the future, and now it's way more expensive for people. And we talk about affordability, making ends meet. No one has an answer. Well, we just had to do it.
Yeah, the answer is to go back to letting you do your propane. That's the answer. Go back to propane, natural gas, all that stuff. That's the answer until they figure out how to do all this stuff. Again, all the data centers that they're trying to build around here in the Northern Virginia area, that's going to make your electric bill skyrocket, your power bill. I wish. And I don't know what state there is. I'd have to do a ton of research. I wish there was a state that was just like what you described. Just like, you know what? Leave them alone. Let them do their thing. We'll pay taxes. I don't even need a state that doesn't have income tax. It'd be great. I'm not even against that. I understand. I got to pay taxes. I understand all that stuff. I want to be left alone. I want you to leave the kids alone. Just let people live their lives. I don't need you in my life on every little thing. And that's what it's come down to. Everything you do, they have to be involved in some way, somehow.
Yep. Well, so similar up here, New Hampshire, our neighbors.
The free state, right? Live free or die. Isn't that New Hampshire? Live free or
die, right? And they've kind of lived that way. I mean,
maybe I'll go there.
They have done well, right? And just for lack of disclosure, they've had Republican leadership for quite a few years, and their whole design was we need to do some things, we don't need to do a lot of things, and just make it work, right? So what they're going through now, and
I feel like they're an afterthought. To be honest with you,
they are.
New Hampshire's an afterthought.
They just quietly do their thing, and no one pays attention, right?
It's like you got Bernie Sanders next door in Vermont. He's crazy and running his mouth all the time. You got the people in Massachusetts that are nuts a lot, and then there's New Hampshire. And nobody pays attention to New Hampshire
because they just do They just do enough to say this is good enough, and God bless them for it. But here's what they're going through now, and I saw this article the other day. So they're being invaded at the southern end by people coming out of Massachusetts because it's too expensive and too much. And what's the first thing they're saying? Well, we need to do this. We had this back in Massachusetts. It's like, people, do you not understand there's a reason why it's this great and why you left Massachusetts because it's too expensive? And now you want to turn around and do the things that made you leave.
They don't understand.
My parents in South Carolina say the same thing. Like everything was fine, but everyone's getting here, and now all of a sudden it's, well, we need to do that. There's a reason.
You moved here.
Go back.
Stop.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what and again, people I'm sure in the comments or whatever will say, well, move to Florida. I can't do that. Those people are crazy down there. We have crazy people that live in Florida.
You could lose your dog. That's what happens. In Florida,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I
you
mean,
let them out in the backyard, and next thing you
all of
know,
a sudden,
alligators got them.
Gators got them. That's no good. No, I mean, there's a reason they call it Florida Man, because they're insane down there. I mean, that's exactly what it is. So I mean, I can't do Florida. So yeah, maybe New Hampshire would be the play, but not if all the massholes are moving there.
They are.
Wouldn't be able to do it. Yeah, I got to find someplace again. It sounds terrible. It sounds, curmudgeon-y, whatever. Fine. I just want to be left alone. That's all I want. Just to be left alone.
West Virginia may be your best bet.
Oh, that's true. My brother used to live there. He just moved to Michigan, but yeah, maybe. It's not that far away. It still has Virginia in the name. So
correct. And you just get right on that edge, the panhandle.
Yeah.
Keeps you close to Virginia, but just outside of the mayhem. So
maybe. Although there are a lot of crazy folks in West Virginia too. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe that would work. Yeah, I just want to be left alone. I just don't want to have to deal with all the nonsense. And again, it's everywhere. Again, that's why I said it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I need to move to a Republican state. I don't want to move to Florida. They have a Republican governor. I don't want anything to do with that. The only problem with New Hampshire is it's the winters. I don't want to deal with the snow.
Yep. Split time. That's what I say.
Yeah, maybe have to. But yeah, we just need a place. Like, again, I talk about just want to be left alone. They won't let you. There's going to be like a tax on what I see, electric, like leaf blowers or something.
Yep.
You have to pay like a first. Yeah. Like what are we doing? Like I have one. Thankfully, I don't have to buy a new one. I'm just got to repair that one over and over again because I won't have to pay a tax on it. It's only on, I guess, new stuff. I don't know. I got to read into it. But I'm like, are you serious? You're going to tax electric leaf blowers? What are we doing?
Because, and this is where you and I agree, it's not Republican, it's not Democrat. Government at this point in our lifetimes exists for itself. And it has to have money to keep existing.
Right.
And that's why you see these taxes coming.
It's ridiculous. In Northern Virginia, they're going to start. It's been proposed. It's not official yet. As everybody keeps yelling it. Oh, but they haven't voted on this yet. Well, you don't propose it unless you want it.
Correct.
That's the way I look at it. You want it, or it wouldn't be proposed. They're going to start adding surcharges or taxes, or whatever, on anything that's delivered. So your DoorDash, your Uber Eats,
Amazon,
anything, not just the food stuff. If you get something from Amazon and you live in, it's basically going to be in Northern Virginia. They're just basically taxing everybody who's got money. Or they think that has money. All of that you're going to get taxed on now. You're going to get taxed on the, again, the electric leaf blowers. Stop already. We have a surplus for a reason in this state. We have $1 billion surplus in Virginia. We don't need more tax stuff. Oh, I don't want to get into this.
Okay. We'll cut it off there.
Yeah, I'm just so annoyed at all of it. I just want to be left alone. That's all it is. So anyway, all right. We went long today. It's fine.
That's okay.
Again, look, if Rogan can do 3 hours, we can do an hour and a half. And maybe people stick with us all the way through. Who knows?
Right. Wait till we start getting guest people.
Do we probably go less time with guests, but do you have any parting thoughts today?
Well, because we were talking about the Olympics, the great Herb Brooks, great moments are born from great opportunity.
This concludes this episode of Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhite. Gen X Men is now off the air.